Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Stark, the Executive Director of the Michigan Sports Legacy Conservancy. Welcome to another one of our LegacyCasts in our series of our productions that we do to talk about sports and how it fits into the history here in the state of Michigan. I'm joined today by a new guest, but not a new face, Kurt Kosmowski. Well, Kurt, you've been around the sports scene in Detroit a long time, a great experience in terms of sports marketing and sports public relations, but you're a sports fan too, and I think we're here today to talk a little bit about the history of the NCAA tournament here in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. This has been a great spring for basketball in Michigan. I mean, if you look at it started out with the Horizon League event at Little Caesars Arena in Oakland, and UDM were in that event, and they had a little bit of a rough year for various reasons, but it was still an exciting event. And then you move on to the first and second rounds of the NCAA at the Little Caesars Arena. I mean, you can't really have a better spring as far as college basketball in the state.
Do you find, Kurt, that as season to season, you find yourself thinking, well, this is a great basketball state. And then you think, well, this is a great baseball state. I mean, does it kind of roll that way? I know I think it that way. I think this is a great basketball state until the next season rolls around.
Yeah, I mean, it really is by season. I mean, if you think of, obviously, the Hockey Town moniker is here, and it's a great community for hockey, whether that's, professional following the Red Wings or minor hockey or college hockey. But in the sense of basketball, you've got all the MAC schools, you've got, UDM and OU, you got Michigan and Michigan State, and you got all the GLIAC schools, and then high school basketball is enormous, both on, girls and boys level.
In terms of the NCAA, Kurt, here in the state of Michigan, we have quite a history. Won a couple of NCAA titles in the terms of Michigan and Michigan State. We've seen a lot of the schools, Oakland, UDM, I think Central, Western, and Eastern have all made appearances in the NCAA. But it's kind of a festival, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the two championships, the '89 team with Ramil Robinson and Terry Mills at Michigan, if you think about that, Ramil Robinson standing at the line shooting those two free throws.
You remember that, don't you?
Against Seton Hall, it was fantastic. And then if you think of the 2000 Michigan State team, the whole Flintstones team, all the history behind that was fantastic. And then if you look at Central and
well, go back to 79 with Magic Johnson.
Yeah,
the
obviously.
First one was transcendent, wasn't it? Because Magic was bigger than life, and it's the first time a Michigan-based school had ever won the NCAA. That really set the mark, I think, for everything that's come since then.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at that team, obviously Magic Johnson and the game against Larry Bird is still the top-ranked college basketball game in terms of TV ratings since 1979, and it may never be broken. So it started another era of basketball, really, if you think of the impact that Magic and Bird left, in the pro world. But that started, a run, if you call it that, of three championships in the NCAA for local teams.
Well, and other close calls, obviously, with the Fab Five when they came right down to the final game. Michigan State, I think, has got to the Final Four under Tom Izzo, I think, 4 times. It won't be this year, obviously, but so there'll be a lot of basketball success in the NCAA. But I think it's changed too, right? Remember, because I think it was 64 teams. Then they started adding the 2 extra teams, and now they're the 4 play-in teams. To me, it's the biggest sporting event we see. Maybe the Super Bowl is bigger on a single day basis, but this thing takes a month, better part of a month. It really is the biggest sporting event, I think, that we see countrywide.
Yeah, I mean, just the term March Madness, everyone knows what March Madness means, whether you have no interest in sports or basketball whatsoever. It's basically the Super Bowl on steroids in terms of being 3 weeks of an event that captures the attention of the country. And, I say Michigan through the years, the state has had just a tremendous, involvement and impact, whether it's hosting events or whether it's championships or just, transcendent events. I mean, the Fab Five didn't win the championship, but they were, just phenomenal, their impact and what they did. And then if you look at some of the other teams that had runs but didn't quite make it, but really drew the attention of fans and just made it fun to watch basketball.
Well, I think of 3 things when you talk about that. I think the way, as you mentioned earlier about Magic Johnson, he not only changed the way a big guy could play basketball. He proved that a big 6'8" guy could be a guard. He could be, he played every position on the court, but he developed that at Michigan State. And then he went on with Bird, as you said earlier. They really saved the NBA.
Yeah.
At that time, remember, in the NBA, they weren't even showing the finals live. Yeah. They were tape delayed until Magic and Bird came along.
Yeah, I mean, they changed it. They made it cool to pass. They made it cool to play that way, and they really changed the game. I mean, now if you look at guards in the NBA, it's not unusual to have a 6'6", a 6'7" person bringing the ball up the court or taller, and that was unheard of before Magic. So they really did change the game, and just his charisma and the way he captures the attention of fans. They're really, you always hear that this person's the next Magic Johnson, but there won't be another Magic Johnson.
Right. And then the second thing that I think was the Fab Five, because it was so unusual. 5 freshmen. They kind of didn't start the whole year, if I remember right. They kind of all came together in that last quarter of the year. And they changed the way the uniform. Remember, they were the first ones to wear the big baggy pants.
Yeah.
So they changed the way a team. Magic may have changed the way a player might play, but they changed the way a team played because they were very selfless too, and the way they worked together.
Yeah, I mean, they were an incredibly great basketball team, and I think what people sometimes underestimate is sort of their basketball IQ. I mean, you had some tremendous, basically basketball genius. I consider Jalen Rose a basketball genius, and the local impact of Weber from Country Day and Jalen Rose from Detroit Southwestern, that Detroit factor, but also just the whole look and everything and the excitement. And I remember clearly when he was using some of the freshmen, Steve Fisher was, but he was also using some of the seniors and juniors, and it's kind of a traditional.
Eric Riley was on that team, a 7-foot center, and a couple other
it's
more
kind of a
experienced players.
Traditional thing for a coach to do, be loyal to his seniors, and I remember it was his father, it was Steve Fisher's father, that said, "Play the freshmen,
play your best
and
players."
The rest is history.
Well, and in that team too, it was interesting because they meshed so well. You had different styles in all 5 guys. Jimmy King, Ray Jackson had, they were more supportive players, defensive minded, and then you had Jalen Rose and Weber, who were the offensive, and then you had Juwan Howard, who really was the perfect center for that team because he could pass and he could score when he needed to.
Yeah, and they had the term now is swag. They had an incredible swag. You just heard John Beeline say that Jordan Poole has
swag. Yep.
An overdose of swag. But that's what the Fab Five had, but in a great way. They just played tremendously.
And a level of confidence that you don't see in freshmen. They really raised the bar. Yeah. And you think about it now, the way from Magic and Bird's time, Magic was still on the opening end of guys 1 or 2 years and out. You had some, but now that's the rule. But in the 5-5, that's what you do. You get your freshmen in, you play them, and you get them for the year or two, and then they move on. That's kind of the way of college basketball now.
And if you can play, you can play.
Yep.
Right from day one. Absolutely.
Well, Kurt, thanks again for being a first LegacyCast today. I hope you'll come back again often to take part in this. Enjoyed it?
Absolutely.
Well,
I love talking sports, whether it's personal or professional.
Well, you can view these LegacyCasts on our Michigan Sports Legacy Conservancy website. That's mislc.org. We've got a whole catalog of them. Hopefully you'll find them interesting and enjoyable. But we'll see you next time with our Michigan Sports Legacy Conservancy LegacyCast. I'm Jim Stark, Executive Director. See you then.